a South Asian country of 17 crore people. The land size almost the same as Nepal. In terms of economy, one of the fastest growing economies in the world, even surpassing its next door neighbor, the world's fifth largest economy, ruled over decades on end. Two families at the helm, or rather, two begums, they often clash. They clash more often than they make peace. That country, our like neighbor almost, that is in turmoil. It is in an exceptional crisis, like for days on end. There have been massive protests, loss of lives, thanks to a brutal crackdown on dissent. Hundreds of people have died. 10,000 or more than 10,000 people have suffered injuries. The country is in chaos. In the wake of a popular uprising, its prime minister, Sheikh Hasina Wajid, she has fled. She has been taking refuge in the next door neighbor, that is India. So, in all, it's an unfolding humanitarian crisis. In the wake of that turmoil, amid that turmoil, the National Army has taken charge and the country is struggling to form an interim government to rein in this chaos. What does it mean for Nepal? Obviously, a crisis in the offing because we have an open border with India. We share an open border with India, and whenever there is a turmoil, whenever there's unrest in the extended neighborhood, Nepal has always been at the receiving end, whether it's the eviction of more than 1 lakh uh, Nepali speaking Bhutanese citizens at the hands of a draconian regime, whether it's the unrest, whether it's this uh, civil war situation in Myanmar that has displaced lakhs of Rohingyas, and a large number of these people have found refuge in Nepal. Even the unrest in Afghanistan has a spillover effect in Nepal, thanks to a large, thanks to a long and open border, a border that is open on our side vis-a-vis India. So that means our neighboring country opens the floodgates of those open the floodgates, just making us like at the receiving end, forcing us to accept those displaced populations. The same situation is once again playing out in our neighborhood. And what is our government doing? There are reports that security forces have stepped up security along the border. India shares 4,000 kilometers long border with uh, Bangladesh. So it has beefed up, it has stepped up security along that long border. There are reports that Nepali security agencies, security forces have stepped up security along the border in view of a possible humanitarian crisis in the offing. This country uh, that has a population of around, I think, 2 crore and 90 lakh people. It has been finding quite hard to just provide for this population whole lot of Nepalese. Large sections of the Nepali population have been working abroad because there is this lack of a conducive environment in Nepal. There are not enough jobs. That is the dominant narrative circulating day in and day out in Nepal. Despite this grim scenario, there are reports that the government has reopened the Kakadvitta border point that is located quite close to the strife-torn Bangladesh. This border had remained closed in the wake of the coronavirus pandemic in 2019. But then overnight development, call it an overnight development, uh, the government, the Kakadvitta customs point, the border point, has decided to just reopen after 5 years of closure. I think this decision to reopen that vital border is akin to just inviting a humanitarian crisis in Nepal, as if our problems, our multiple crises were not enough. Imagine the situation that Nepal will face. Imagine the crisis that Nepal will face if, like, crores of displaced people were to enter through our open borders because our neighbor, the neighbor with which we have a long and porous border, that is India. It has the tendency of pushing those displaced populations into Nepal through that open border. We have seen it in the times of the Bhutanese refugee crisis in particular. Instead of learning some grim lessons from the past, the government has decided to reopen the Kakadvitta border point, making way for a huge humanitarian crisis, forcing an ill-prepared country to shoulder this extra burden of probably having to feed like millions of people at a time when it has not been able to provide for its own population. That is all for today. That is all I have to just say about this crisis for now. What do you think about this unfolding crisis? Are we not at the receiving end of a humanitarian crisis unfolding in the extended neighborhood? I request you to comment on this presentation. Press that like button if it touches your hearts and minds, and subscribe to this channel. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening.